Welcome to my channel. Woolworths fire. 1979. F.W. Woolworth was a well-known retailer of the 20th century. It was the first brand to go global, with more than 5,000 stores across the globe. Frank Winfield Woolworth was born in Rodman, New York on April 13, 1852. At the age of 15, he left his father's farm to go and work in a shop at Watertown. He was put in charge of stock management and displays. He would set up a table of fixed-price 5-cent goods, which soon became a hit with the customers. He would then decide to branch out on his own, setting up one of America's early fixed-price stores. On November 5, 1909, Frank Woolworth opened his first store outside of North America, in Church Street, Liverpool, in the UK. The store was a big hit, and he would go on to open another 44 stores in the UK. However, as he grew older, his health was on the decline, and his death would come as a great shock across the retail world. He passed away on April 8, 1919 at the age of 66. In 1934, the 600th store was opened in the UK. Woolworths became a household name. It was on November 25, 1944, that a German V-2 rocket destroyed a large store in London, causing 168 deaths. On May 22, 1958, the 1000th branch of Woolworths opened in West Sussex. However, Woolworths wasn't without its disasters over the years. In 1971, a large amount of stock was lost when the 4-year-old distribution center completely burnt down. Then in 1972, its store in Belfast also burnt down. This wasn't the end of the fires. In 1973, another large store in Colchester would also burn down. However, it was on May 8, 1979, at around 1:30 p.m., that a radio operator from a taxi firm contacted 999 to report that one of its taxi drivers had reported seeing smoke coming out of the Woolworths store opposite Piccadilly Gardens in the centre of Manchester, UK. Other calls started to come into 999, all reporting seeing smoke coming out of the store. Fire crews quickly got to the store and found smoke billowing from the building. They found people calling for help from the roof and at the windows, all desperate to get out of the burning building. At the time, it was believed that there were around 500 customers and staff inside the building. Witnesses said that the scene outside the store was also chaotic. People attempted to flee the store, but found that some of the exit doors were locked, while other exits obstructed by equipment. Because people couldn't get out, they headed to the roof for safety. In reports after the fire, it was found that exit doors being locked was not an uncommon practice. They had done this in an attempt to stop shoplifters. It took firefighters almost 3 hours to bring the fire under control. They tried to get people out of the building, but found that the upper windows of the store had thick iron bars on them. They tried to pry these off, but were unsuccessful, and had to wait for cutting tools to arrive to get them off. This resulted in a delay getting people out of the windows. At 3:51 p.m., it was declared that the fire was out, and the fire crews went in to search the building. Sadly, not everyone had gotten out of the building, and fire crews found 10 people deceased. 47 other people were taken to hospital for treatment. 6 fire crew were also injured during the fire. At the time, the fire was the city's worst fire disaster since World War II. It was determined how the fire began, and why it was so deadly. The fire had started after a damaged electrical cable had ignited polyurethane foam furniture, which created large amounts of thick toxic smoke. The thick smoke obscured exit signs, and made it difficult for people to find their way out. The investigation found that most of those people who had passed away in the fire were inside the restaurant on the second floor, where the smoke was so thick, they couldn't find a way out. It was also found that the store did not have any sprinkler system, which meant the fire spread at a rapid rate. The investigation concluded that the foam used inside the furniture was to blame for the thick toxic smoke. After the fire, a campaign was launched to try and change the law. They wanted furniture makers to use flame-resistant foam. In 1988, the Furniture and Furnishings Fire and Safety Regulations came into effect, which forced manufacturers to make furniture fillings and covers from safer materials. Coroner Leonard Gorodkin said that the victims had died due to the dense toxic smoke, with a mixture of carbon monoxide and cyanide. After this fire, furniture stores were required to have sprinkler systems, and to give their staff fire training. However, even though new regulations came into effect with furniture being made of safer materials, just recently, the government has proposed scrapping these regulations. They want to scrap mandatory flammability tests for furniture, which will mean that manufacturers will be able to sell furniture that could be hazardous and flammable. This will no doubt mean that furniture will be deadly once more, as cheap materials can be used. There is outrage at this proposal. The memory of what happened that day still haunts those who had witnessed it all these years later. One witness, Catherine McGuinn, remembers these women in the restaurant, eating their lunch. She was with her daughter at the restaurant, when her daughter heard a member of staff shout fire. She said, her daughter told her what she had just heard, but as there was no signs of smoke or fire, she believed that it was maybe just a small fire, which a member of staff would extinguish. However, just 5 minutes later, someone shouted loudly, "Fire, get out." She remembers the women she had seen, still sitting there eating their lunch. This time, her daughter insisted they leave, which they did, and as they looked towards the furniture department, they saw black smoke. Mike Wood-Findon, who was 26 at the time, and had only been in the fire service for 4 years, found himself on the roof of the building, attempting to rescue those who had gone up there for safety. He estimated that around 40 or 50 people were up there at the time. Rescue was slow, the fire equipment could only hold a few people at a time, so some people on the roof decided to go back inside the store, to look for another way out. We can only assume that this was out of desperation. Sadly, those 10 people who did not make it out of the store were: Michael Archer, 31. Sarah Jane Bird, 68. Dorothy Botham, 86. Helena Gunn, 69. Hazel Ann Heaton, 29. Susan Heaton, 32. Albert Edward McNally, 70. Ernest Naylor, 73. Patricia Jean Simmons, 59. And Cyril Baldwin, 68. Cyril Baldwin was a member of staff at Woolworths. He helped others to get out of the store, but sadly, was one of the 10 victims that day. Due to financial problems, Woolworths closed its stores in January 2009. The well-known popular retailer, everyone was used to seeing on the high street, was now no more. Our hearts go out to the families of the victims of this tragic fire. May your loved ones always be remembered. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel to view other content.